The Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Well, you may not realize this, but you know we have a primary election coming up on June 11th, and that means early voting starts May 25th. Wow, where did the time go? With me to talk about her campaign is Rebecca Wolfson, who's a candidate for Municipal Court judge,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Now, let me get through all the disclaimers here in the beginning of our show, because you come from a very famous family. Your dad is our district attorney, Steve Wolfson, same last name.
Yes.
Right? Mother is Jackie Glass, famous district court judge. Known both of them for like 40 years, long time. And the first thing I think I want to ask you, Rebecca, is now your dad's a district attorney in the county.
Correct.
You're running for the city. Is there any kind of interaction?
There is no conflict. There's no overlap, if you will. His jurisdiction practices in justice and district court. His attorneys don't practice in the municipal court, so there will be no conflict. So essentially, I've been a city attorney for the last 7 years. We've never had a conflict with the district attorney's office in terms of my employment. And the same thing goes for if I'm elected as the municipal court judge. There will be no conflict.
Yeah, because in the county, like your job currently, you're a city attorney's
Correct.
office. So you're kind of the prosecutor for the city. Your dad is a prosecutor for the county, right?
Right.
And your boss is the city. There is a city attorney.
Correct.
Right? And
yes.
who's that?
Jeff Dorkak. He is
Okay.
the city attorney.
Okay, so you work for him
Yes.
and have nothing to do with the county. Other than the fact that you grew up with this incredible opportunity
Right.
to see so much. I mean, I know this is about you, but just let me trace a little bit of your
That's
parents'
fine.
history because I've known them so well. Your parents were both defense lawyers,
Right.
right? in
I
private
grew up
practice.
with them being defense lawyers.
Right,
Yes.
so you were seeing your parents represent defendants the
Right.
whole time. Then your dad eventually went into the city council.
Mm-hmm.
He was a city councilman, so you saw the political side of that.
Right.
Your mother became a judge.
Right.
And we'll talk about her in a minute. And then your dad ultimately became our district attorney for
Correct.
last, 2 terms already?
I think it's been about 12 years.
Yeah, quite a while. So he's busy prosecuting the bad guys
Right.
now. So you've seen it all. You've seen the defense side, the prosecution side, and the judicial side.
Right.
You yourself were on the prosecution side. Now you want to go into the judicial side. Why?
Well, it's interesting. You say I've been on the prosecution side, which is true. I spent my first 4 years at the city attorney's office as a prosecutor. I was handling thousands of cases in the very courtroom that I'm running in, handling misdemeanors within the city of Las Vegas. And about 3 years ago, I was promoted to the civil division team. So for the last 3 years, I've handled their complex litigation, their planning and land use, their legislation, and their code enforcement. I do a variety of things for the city attorney's office at the moment, but it's a great job. I love Las Vegas, and I want to do more. And I know that my skill set and my demeanor and my temperament is perfect for the role of a municipal court judge. I love the courtroom. I was basically born into the courtroom, and from a very young age, I knew not only that I wanted to be a lawyer, but that I wanted to have an impact on my community. So that is why I'm running.
And that seems to be your family history, having an impact on the community.
Right.
All of you. And I should say you also have an older sister.
I do.
Like your family is just so interesting. I mean, your older sister is a comedian.
She is. She's a comedian / actress,
Right.
and she is currently living in Austin, Texas, and is very well immersed within the comedy scene in Austin. She travels, performs her comedy. So everyone in my family has done something in the public eye. So I figured, why not join the family?
Well, exactly.
Right.
And you're all kind of giving back.
Right.
Your mom is extremely famous
Right.
for being the judge who put O.J. in prison.
Correct.
Right.
She sentenced him, yes.
Sentenced him to prison. After all of us knew how guilty he was and never went to prison, it was finally the karma of of a case in Las Vegas that put O.J. into prison. But that must have been a difficult time for you and your sister.
I don't know if I would describe it as difficult. So my mom was elected to the bench in 2002, and I was about 11 years old, and she was on the bench for about 8 years. So from the ages, for me, from 11 to 19, my mother was a judge. So I was raised by a judge. And when I was in high school is when the Las Vegas O.J. Simpson case occurred. And there were days where I would leave school and I would drive down to the Regional Justice Center and I would go watch the trial as it was happening. So it was interesting. It was an exciting time for my family, but my mom took her job seriously and was not in it for anything but to do her job. And she did a good job.
Yeah, in today's world, it seems like judges are having a difficult time. You look at what's going on in some of the Trump trials, and there's judges are issuing protective orders against juries and their own family. I mean, right? Isn't the judge in the Trump trial has had had an issue with things being said about his daughter? Is it his daughter, or is it? I think it was his daughter. And so, I mean, did you have any of that kind of experience during the O.J. trial?
I don't remember anything like that. I know I'll never forget the night that the verdict came out. It was a Friday night. I went down to the courthouse, and it was a late verdict reading. I think it came out at between 8 and 10 p.m. And after the verdict was read, when my mother and I went to leave, we were leaving in separate cars. We did have a police escort home just in case anything were to happen. But aside from that, I don't remember anything threatening or of that nature coming our way. But it's happened. It's happened to my family, and I think it's happened more in my father's role as district attorney than anything else. But it's not often, but we take precautions and we do everything we can to protect ourselves.
Now, we talked about your family background and your exposure to the defense, the prosecution, the judicial, but your mom now is doing mediation.
Correct.
Right now, she's a retired judge. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when judges retire, they go and they handle arbitrations or mediations, which are kind of in the private world of business. And when two people have a dispute, instead of going to court, they can agree to get their dispute mediated or arbitrated. So that involves a whole different set of skills. Right? So I'm sure you've been privy to some of that. So which of these skills, if not all of them, really have equipped you to become a judge?
I think they all have. I think growing up in a family that comes home at night and has serious conversations about the law and things that are happening in our community has really set me up to take these next steps in my career. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but running for political office is a completely different type of career choice. It's putting yourself out there to have the voters hopefully pick me to win my next job, to serve my community. I mean, I've been in public service for the last 8 years. I love my community. I love Las Vegas. My parents have both instilled in me what it means to serve your community in a meaningful way. And that's exactly what I've done. And I want to continue doing it. And I want to continue giving back to this community that's given me everything. And so I'm excited for this next step, and I hope it works out.
Now, your parents had two daughters. One went to go into law, the other went into comedy. What is the irony of that?
You know, I think it keeps us on our toes. My sister is incredibly funny. She is smart, she is quick-witted, and she fits right in. Now, she may not be engaging in the same legal discussions that we are all engaging in, but she has a lot of opinions and she has a lot to say, and she's not afraid to say it. I look up to my sister. What she does every single day when she goes on stage and she does her comedy, it's an incredible thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do, to put yourself out there, which is what I'm doing right now. So I admire her a lot for that.
Did you get any feeling like you had pressure to go to law school, or were your parents just trying to dissuade you from going to law school, or were they neutral?
They never pressured us. Yeah. And me specifically, I think when I started telling them that I was interested in the law when I was younger, about 10 or 11 years old, it's not that they ever pushed me in that direction, nor did they deter me from it. So I think they just allowed me to explore it as my own thought and my own want. And ultimately, when I started actually, taking the LSAT, getting into law school, going through law school, it became more of a reality. I'm very lucky to have both of my parents be my greatest role models. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better. I have a mom who was a judge. I'm trying to be a judge. I have a father who has been a city councilman, a district attorney, a criminal defense attorney, and they have both served this community in various different ways. And I'm so proud to be their daughter. And I can only hope that I can give back to the community, if not even more than what they both have done.
And how have you found the experience of campaigning? This is your first. Now, obviously, you've been involved in your parents' campaigns for a number of years. Your mom running for judge, your dad running for district attorney and city council.
Right.
And now, you have to kind of, as you said, put yourself out there.
Right.
Has it been a positive experience for you?
It has. It's interesting. I like to tell people that I have 22 years of campaign experience. I've been an attorney for 8 years, but I've been in the political world for 22 years because of my parents. But honestly, nothing really prepares you for when it's your name on the ballot, when it's your name on the signs, and when it's your name you're asking people to vote for. So as much as I felt prepared for this process, truly nothing prepares you for it until you actually do it. It has been hard. It has been consuming. I mean, I work a full-time job, and then after the full-time job, I work a full-time campaign. So it takes up a lot of time, but I'm happy to do it. I hope it pays off, and I hope that I'm successful in it.
What exactly does a municipal court judge do?
They handle misdemeanors within the city of Las Vegas.
Which means what? Let's really narrow it down for our viewers. Misdemeanors in the city of Las Vegas, within the city of Las Vegas, within the city boundary of Las Vegas. Okay.
So misdemeanors can go from anywhere from traffic violations to trespassings, petty larcenies, simple batteries, and then the more serious crimes within the municipal court, which are the domestic violence cases, driving under the influence, and vehicular manslaughter cases. So while they are still misdemeanors, they're serious offenses, and some of them are enhanceable, meaning if you get enough of them, they eventually turn into felony crimes. So those would go on to district court. If you get enough of them, they're no longer just misdemeanors, they become felonies. So they are very serious offenses that the municipal court handles, but at the end of the day, they're misdemeanors. Another thing that people don't realize that the municipal court judges do is they handle civil abatements. And what that means is if you own property in the city of Las Vegas and your property is not up to code and there are violations and you're not working with the city to correct those violations, the city will obtain a search warrant signed by our municipal court judges and fix the issues on your property. Now, there's a lot more to that, but very simply, our municipal court judges are involved in a variety of different aspects of city life.
I wanted to ask you about the domestic cases that the city handles, city attorneys and the judges handle. It seems to me that there's, just so many more of those cases today than there were when I began practicing law. Statistically, am I correct?
Statistically, I mean, it depends on what you're referring back to in terms of how far back
a long time ago.
I think that they have increased, but I think generally they are trending downwards. Yeah. I mean, domestic violence happens every single day. Men and women are victims of domestic violence. I dealt with it every single day when I was a prosecutor in municipal court. And it's a serious offense, and it's one of those situations where you're not only concerned about the defendant, you don't want him to reoffend, right? You want him to get the help he or she needs to hopefully correct the behaviors that put them in that position. But at the same time, you want to make sure that the victims of the cases are safe as well. So as a judge, you have to be on the lookout for all parties involved in the case, and you have to make sure that not only is the person held accountable, but that everyone feels safe with the result.
And the other thing I always find very confusing is, you get a traffic ticket, and it's most people, when they get a ticket, they don't know if it's a city, a county ticket. They don't know where to go, what to do, or how to resolve it. Because it's just like I guess a little box checked on the back of the ticket, of what court you're in, right? But
it does tell you. It does. The tickets
you have to read the fine print.
I mean, you got to read the ticket entirely, and you'll know exactly which court you should be going to. But that doesn't mean that it's easy to find and that the information is easily accessible. That's one thing that has always kind of bothered me with the law. And I think while COVID was terrible for most purposes, one thing that it did was it forced the legal community to modernize to an extent and to provide different avenues for cases to be handled and heard. However, for some reason, it's still hard to find cases online. It's still hard to find records of information. But traffic tickets, I mean, the ticket itself will tell you if you're supposed to go to justice court or municipal court. And interestingly, our laws have changed recently, and a majority of basic traffic offenses are now civil infractions, not criminal. Now, the DMV offenses, meaning if you're caught driving without a valid license or without proof of insurance, those are still criminal misdemeanor cases. But a majority of your traffic tickets now are civil infractions. They're still being handled by the Las Vegas Municipal Court, and we have a traffic commissioner who is specifically designed to handle those types of cases. But they're in all the departments. Each municipal court judge handles, to an extent, some sort of traffic cases.
So what's the ramification of that for somebody who gets a ticket? I mean, if you can still get your driver's license suspended, right?
Right.
You can still get the points, and your insurance rates go up, and you can lose your license and all that. And if you don't pay it, then what happens?
Well, I think it depends on what type of ticket it is, because there are still some that are criminal, and if you don't pay and if you're not showing up to court for whatever reason and you're absconding, your case could go into warrant. Now, the civil infractions are a little bit different. We're not putting people, and by we, I mean the city attorney's office isn't asking for people to go into warrant status for civil infractions, but there could be negative consequences if you fail to pay those tickets as well. So it's something that people should still be doing. You should still be taking responsibility for your actions and the infractions that you commit, and hopefully it doesn't turn into anything worse than just a simple fine in most cases.
Now, I noticed down the street from my office there's a new city building kind of going up, right? Are they moving the courts, or what are they doing?
No, the municipal court built a new courthouse it was finished in 2021. In fact, when I was a prosecutor still at the time in early 2021, the building was just finished. So for about 2 weeks of my last 2 weeks as a prosecutor, I got to practice in the new municipal court building before I switched over to the civil division team, which practices out of City Hall. They're right across the street from each other, so it makes it easy for me to go back and forth and to do my job. But they're building a new facility right across from City Hall. It's going to be a great courtyard. It's going to be a great place for people to not only work, but to hopefully hang out outside when it's not too hot and enjoy the beautiful downtown scenery.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when it wasn't so beautiful in the courthouse. So I'm glad they're building some new ones. Your job now in the civil area.
Right.
So the city attorney's office is kind of divided between those who do criminal work and those who do civil, and you've done both.
I've done both. I'm actually the only attorney that's ever gone from criminal to civil. We've had an attorney that's gone from civil to criminal before, but I'm the first one that's done criminal to civil.
And what is your preference?
I think it depends. They're very different jobs. What I loved about being a criminal city attorney or a prosecutor was being in court every single day. I love interacting with people. I love meeting people. I love trying to craft resolutions that will hopefully impact their lives in a positive way. And it's much more involved. You get a lot more face-to-face interaction when you're on the criminal side. On the civil side, the work I'm doing is much bigger. What I mean by that is I'm handling cases that are worth lots and lots of money. And I'm handling planning and land use. So I'm helping people, or I'm advising our council, I'm advising our planning commissioners, I'm advising our Historic Preservation Commission. It's a lot more work with the leaders in Las Vegas as opposed to being in the criminal courts where you're working with the community. So they're very different jobs. I love the courtroom. I think I excel in the courtroom. I love working with people. So I'm excited at the opportunity to go back into the courtroom and to go back into the criminal area of law.
Your mom was known as a very firm judge. How was she as a parent?
Growing up, it's interesting because I think my plan was if I wanted to do something or if I needed something, I would go to my dad because he was more likely to say yes than my mom was. And in fact, her first answer to almost everything still to this day is no, but you just got to warm her up a little bit and then she'll come around to it. My mother, she was strict, but she was compassionate and she was understanding. I think my parents wanted both my sister and I to have safe upbringings and to do well and to do good for this community and to just be good people. And they showed us what that looks like. So while it is interesting to be raised by a district attorney and a district court judge, there's still a lot of fun in our family. I think it's evident in the fact that my sister is a stand-up comedian. I think she has a lot of material to work with. But we're very lucky. We have two parents, and I consider my parents my best friends. I spend a lot of my spare time with them. They're incredible people, and I'm very lucky.
You know, you and your sister grew up in Las Vegas. My kids grew up in Las Vegas. There was a time when people were reluctant to bring their families to Las Vegas to grow up here, thinking that there weren't the foundation that you needed to grow a family.
Right.
What was your experience?
It was so funny because I used to go off to camp as a child, summer camp, sometimes for a month long, sometimes out of state. And people would always be fascinated with the fact that I'm from Las Vegas. And I think that stigma has kind of gone away over the years, especially now more recently. A lot of people know that Las Vegas has more to offer than just the Strip. We're a big community here in Las Vegas, and it's grown incredibly since I've been around, and it only continues to grow. So there is the ability to have somewhat of a normal upbringing here in Las Vegas, and although it might have been weird at times, and there were things that I think we were all exposed to from a very young age that a lot of people in the rest of the country and the world wouldn't necessarily see on a daily basis, I think it's unique to Las Vegas, and I think it helped make me into the person that I am today.
And you kind of talked about this, but what are your ideal attributes that a judge should have?
I think a judge not only needs to be in control of their courtroom, but they need to have the right temperament. I think that's a really effective quality in any judge, is to be able to listen to the people that come before you, all the people, whether it's defendants, victims, witnesses, people just coming in to observe court, listening to what the community has to say and learning from it, and then applying it in your role. I also think that while I'm running for municipal court for one department, there are 6 municipal court judges. So there is somewhat of a collaborative effort amongst all of them. And some of those big decisions are made by all of these judges. So you have to be able to work with the other judges and to be efficient and to be effective. I want to be the type of judge that when I get on the bench, I'm going to be on that bench until all the cases are heard and then some. I want the ability for people who just have a question about courts or what I do or the cases that I'm doing or handling, I want them to be able to ask that of me. I've had the privilege, because of my vast experience, not only have I practiced in front of all of the municipal court judges, but I practiced in Justice Court, District Court, the Supreme Court, Federal Court, and the Ninth Circuit. So I've practiced in a variety of different courtrooms, and I've had the ability to experience a variety of different types of judges. And there are skills and attributes that I can say that I've pulled from so many of them that I wish to embody and that I hope to bring to my bench if I'm elected. And I think I'll be really great at it, so I'm excited.
I really don't recall interviewing, and look, I've been doing this show for 35 years. I don't really recall interviewing another candidate for a municipal court judge that has done as much as you have done in preparing and having the experience that you do have. Once again, the primary is June 11th.
Correct. It's 41, well, today, but it's a little less than 6 weeks away.
So quick. I can't
Yeah.
believe it's already, we're already in May. And early voting starts May the 25th.
Yes.
And tell me of this experience of running for office, because a lot of places a judge doesn't run for office, they get appointed. And by the way, are you in favor of the judges having to run for office?
It's what our community has, and it's what we've decided to do in terms of electing our judges. Whether I disagree with it or not, it doesn't really matter because that's what we have here. Granted, we do have appointments in certain circumstances. If a judge leaves their seat early, depending on which seat it is, either the governor or the city council could appoint someone to fill that role, but then that individual then has to run in the next election.
Right.
So while appointments sometimes happen here, ultimately they turn into elections. I'm of the mindset that an election is, you're voted on by the people. It's democracy in action. And although everything is somewhat political, it's at least you're voted in by a majority of the community. So I think that that's the best route that we have at this point.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And look, I'm in favor of judges being elected, but getting enough information in front of the voters so they can make an informed decision, which I think is a sad part because oftentimes the most important person you're going to meet is the judge in a case. They're the most omnipotent person you become before, and you should know who they are and what they stand for. And that's why we have you on the show today.
Right. Well, and I appreciate the platform because I think that my stance is that I want to be firm, but I want to be fair. I care about the people in this community, and I've seen it firsthand, the impact that these municipal court judges and all the judges can have on the people that come before them. And it's a really important role, and I think we, as a community, need to elect great judges. We need good government, and we need good judges more than ever now.
Thank you so much, Rebecca Wolfson.
Thank you.
Get out and vote. The primary is, boy, it's only a couple weeks away.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
You're welcome.